Fallout Season 2 just wrapped up, and I have a huge problem with it. There was not a single mention of an Assaultron this season, which I think is a big fail. I mean, last season there was a broken one in the sand. I mean, that was cool, but I don't know. I think they should have, they should have had one activate, and it starts like, with the eye laser, right? And then all the characters will run away, scared, and they're freaking out. But then there's one guy who's like, "Don't worry, guys, I'll hold her off." Look, I guess I can go out on a limb and say, this one scene right here may have been referencing an Assaultron.
That was one squire, and he was well within his rights.
But whatever. Hopefully in Fallout Season 3, we get to see some Assaultrons in action. If you know what I mean. Okay, sorry. Look, that tangent was just so that I can make a clickbait title, but hey everyone, I'm here to review Fallout Season 2. So I'm going to talk about spoilers. Alright, this is your spoiler warning. There's a lot I want to talk about. But if you want a quick review, I think this show is pretty great still, but Season 1 was a bit better in some ways. So this season fixed a lot, though not all of my problems with Season 1. The whole Shady Sands retcon is still very confusing to me, like, why is it right next to Los Angeles now, and why was it blown up, like, immediately after New Vegas? Was it before New Vegas? It's still really not clear, and it's just very confusing. But Season 1 seeming to confirm that Vault-Tec planned to drop the bomb themselves, and Mr. House was there at the meeting, and that seemed very odd to me, since, in the game he says he miscalculated the day the bombs would be dropped, so I'm like, well, that wouldn't make any sense if you already knew when they were going to be dropped. But by having House explain how he doesn't think it'll be Vault-Tec who drops the bombs, and how there's a mysterious third party he can't see, right? I think that works well with what we know about his character, and fits the already established lore of the games. So I think they really fixed that issue with really only like 1 or 2 scenes in this season. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm a shill for this show, alright? I'm not paid to say this stuff, and it's not perfect, right? And I'm going to talk about the things I don't like, but I do want to gush about the things that I enjoy too. And like, Mr. House is one of my favorite characters in the whole franchise, so I was planning to scrutinize every single scene he was in as soon as they announced that they were going to Vegas this season. And personally, I think they did a great job with this character. I mean, especially Justin Theroux does an amazing job portraying Mr. House. He nails the, know-it-all personality of him, and how he gets really pissed off when things don't go his way. And I think the body double thing is brilliant. You got Bobby Apartment, he's the face of the company, but the real House is working from behind the curtain. And this also keeps the ending in New Vegas vague, because, maybe you killed the fake House if you decided to kill Mr. House. Or, maybe his body never really mattered at all. Some might say this kind of undermines the decisions you make in the game, and I can see that, but at the same time, the show makes sure to keep reminding us the House always wins. Except for the times he doesn't, but don't worry about those. However, I will say one scene I thought was very silly. It's where he kind of like puts on that little hat that he has, where it's like, oh hey, that's the pod. That's the thing that Mr. House wears in the pod. That's his hat thing. It just reminded me of that scene in Solo where Darth Maul ignites his lightsaber and just like, hey look audience, look it's me, I'm Darth Maul with my red lightsaber. Look at this. It's like, why are you putting that on? There's no reason to put on that hat right now, man. Whatever. But really though, all the actors do an amazing job with their characters. I mean, like Walton Goggins specifically is just so good as Cooper Howard. He's carrying the show on his back, it feels like, at some points. I also really like that we get to see him a lot in the pre-war world, and I think a lot of his scenes are able to do a very good job of going back and forth, showing the past and present at the same time, and kind of just being able to tell a story non-linearly like that. I think that's wonderful. And I like how House says, I don't think you're a cowboy at all, Mr. Howard. I think you're a killer. Because, I mean, a killer, that's who the ghoul ends up becoming, right? And, but still he, was like, no, I'm a cowboy. I play a cowboy. I'm a real cowboy. And he kind of, like, dresses up like a cowboy and acts like a cowboy and talks like a cowboy. And that's kind of just, like, that's kind of a mask for him. That's just, like, his coping mechanism. So, very, very interesting. I love the writing for his character, and Walton Goggins just does an amazing job with it. But that does bring me to my main point with this show, which just became more apparent each episode. The different storylines are very disjointed, and this is most noticeable in the finale. We were just like jumping back and forth. I'm like, oh, we got to do this story now, this story now, this story now. They felt very disconnected and not much transition between them. So that was kind of hard to follow. And I think it was most evident with Norm's story. I've seen other people talking about this as well. This is like the main thing people are complaining about. Because, I mean, Norm's story is great. It's very interesting. But, I mean, it was just like, they'd have an episode, and that was kind of like main focus of him. And like, it was like 3 or 4, I think, where it was focusing on him. But then, like, in the later episodes, it's just like, oh yeah, so he's here, and like we get one scene in the whole episode of like, yep, he's up here in the office, they tied him up, and oh, yep, he got knocked out, and that's what's up with Norm. And it's like, did you really need to include that? Why, like, you just kind of just threw that tidbit in there, and then we're just back to whatever else we were talking about. I don't know. It was very disconnected, and a lot of the plot lines, like, they have a lot of things they have going on, and they don't transition between them naturally. I do like Norm's relationship with Claudia, though. It's very sweet, and I wish the best for them. Love to see a guy who's into older women. Hey, if you're still watching at this point in the video, would you consider leaving a like? I mean, I don't usually ask, I don't usually take the time to ask, but it does actually really help out the video, so thank you. Anyway, so because the first season was so successful, the higher-ups wanted to get a second season out as soon as possible, and this had me worry that there would be a dip in quality. But besides what I already mentioned with the plot lines feeling a bit disconnected, I mean, I think everything was still executed very well. I mean, the sets looked great, the effects looked great, the actors did a great job. I didn't feel like any of that was rushed. It just seems like, in terms of, pacing, it felt like they condensed everything down and rushed through everything in that sense. Also, I fear this season leaned a bit more into fan service, but I mean, it was admittedly cool when they did do it. I mean, like, oh look, it's NCR armor, it's Fisto, it's Victor, it's Sunset Sarsaparilla, and that big reveal with the blueprints at the end, right? So, but it didn't feel like I was being pandered to. It didn't feel like I was, having keys jangled in front of me like a Star Wars show, But I do hope they are able to keep it in check. I don't want this show to become dependent on, ooh, look, it's the thing you like. It's this thing. Don't you know this thing? It's this cool thing. But I do appreciate that you can enjoy this show as a fan of the games or as someone who's new to the franchise. I watched this show with my dad, and he's never played the games, but he can follow the story, and we can also, have a conversation about, like, the game lore and other stuff, just because, it's in the show and we can talk about it. And I think New Vegas was a great setting for Lucy's character specifically, because she's such a good karma character. This season had a lot of moments that put her morals to the test, which I think a lot of New Vegas players can relate to. The game is full of decisions, and while some are pretty clear what's the good and bad option, there are some more that are a bit more morally gray. So by having Lucy have to sacrifice her no murder principle to end the suffering of this congresswoman, it's not only a great character moment for her, but also very reflective of the themes and ideas in the source material. Also, if I had a bottle cap for every time there was a 200-year-old severed head in a glass jar of someone from the pre-war asking to be killed in a Fallout entry, I'd have 2 bottle caps, which isn't a lot, but it's just weird that it happened twice. And I love how they handled the NCR versus Legion debate with Hank being like, oh, they're basically the same. And then Lucy just immediately shoots that down because, yeah, a corrupt government with taxes is not comparable to a completely evil one that sees women as subservient to men and also, enslaves the people that they conquer. I did like the Caesar's Palace joke, though. That was funny. Oh, yeah, let's talk about Kaiser Kevin. Yeah. So the whole Legion plotline was strange because, they showed up for one episode and then they were, just completely absent from the show until they show up at the end. I honestly thought they would play a larger part this season, like, an ever-present threat, but it almost feels like it was cut short. And, but I guess we'll be seeing more of them in Season 3 and some big fight between them and the NCR. I do like that they had Caesar say, the Legion dies with me, because, that lines up with what we're told in-game. And maybe it's just me, but does anyone else think that all the Legion soldiers look like this? I do find it weird that Hoover Dam is never mentioned, and, why does House even need cold fusion when he basically has unlimited energy right there? But the whole, cold fusion diode plotline is still just very confusing to me. Like, I get, unlimited power. I get everyone wants that, but, why do you need to store it in the base of your skull to transport it around? Like, is that not dangerous and completely unnecessary? I mean, in Season 1, I just assumed Wilzig did that because he was desperate, but that's just the way that you store it? Does that not hurt? Does that not cause brain damage? Anyway, it is funny to me that, Cooper Howard is just like, here you go, Mr. President. And like, he just thinks that's the right thing to do, and a casual viewer might think the same, but, any Fallout fan is like, no, don't give it to the president, no, don't do that, he is not a good guy. So yeah, maybe Cooper might have just caused, the Great War there. He might actually be the direct reason it happens. I really do hope we get to see more of Clancy Brown in Season 3. He's such a good actor, and him being like, the leader of the Enclave would be so cool. And on the topic of celebrity cameos, Ron Perlman as a mutant was cool. He just kind of shows up, saves the ghoul, says the Enclave, and then leaves, but it was cool. I imagine this is going to be part of a larger FEV plotline they're setting up for next season, but it's still cool. So yeah, at the start of the season, I thought they were going to make House the big bad, but, and he's not a good guy, right? He still does some pretty evil stuff, but he's not the villain, right? And they seem to be setting up the Enclave to be the main villain for next season. But Hank's line about the surface being the real experiment, that's just so great, and in a way it kind of recontextualizes the whole franchise. And I mean, the idea that the whole time the Enclave has just been operating in Phase 1 is really interesting, because every time it's like, we defeated the Enclave, but then they show up again. It's like, oh, they've just been in Phase 1 this whole time? What's Phase 2 then? And now they got a bunch of sleeper agents all over the wasteland, and who knows what they could be up to. It's very exciting, so I'm really curious to see where they go with it. And Hank is such a good villain because, I mean, we see how, like, easily he just manipulates Lucy, and he knows exactly how to lead her along. Like, oh, well, don't you want to stop people from murdering each other? This is how we do it. But again, even after learning how horrible he really is, Lucy still cares about him, and it hurts to see him get completely wiped, so it was really sad to see their final moment together. And I'm glad that they made Barbara Howard not, completely evil. The Enclave forced her to say the war never changes line, and she's trying to save her family just like Cooper. And I love the scene where she's listening to Vault-Tec presentations, and at first she has the bomb in her eyes, but then the scene ends with her family in her eyes instead. There is the question of who Wilzig really is, and why he went rogue. Or maybe he didn't, and everything is proceeding as the Enclave is foreseen. Okay, so next up, the Brotherhood of Steel. Sorry if I'm, jumping all over the place with this review, but as I already mentioned, the show does the same thing, so it's not really my fault. I think showing Area 51 was cool, and you had a Zeton in a fridge, that was cool. There was also holy hand grenades I noticed. The Ark of the Covenant was there, Indiana Jones reference. I love a good Indiana Jones reference. But I also think that, the Brotherhood Civil War, that's just a logical next step for this faction. They've become so scattered over the years, and, infighting is nothing new for them. But they put so much emphasis on the Commonwealth being, this powerhouse not to mess with. It seems like that does confirm that the Brotherhood is not destroyed in Fallout 4, and likely the sole survivor sided with them. That does make me wonder, though, what do you think the Courier and Lone Wanderer are up to? Anyway, I do think this season improved on Maximus quite a bit, allowing him to come full circle and become a real hero, not just a fancy suit of armor. In Season 1, he wants to become a knight to, get the armor and be like the hero who saved him, but this season he becomes a hero of the NCR, and specifically he becomes the hero his parents always wanted him to be. And he's an actual hero who protects the people of the Wasteland instead of just enforcing the Brotherhood's dogma. Also, his new power armor is sick, might actually be one of the coolest sets in the entire series, but why was this just sitting unguarded in a warehouse? I mean, this is literally a weapon of mass destruction, and it's just like under a cloth in an abandoned building somewhere. Oh, and the music was a lot better this season. Not that Season 1 was, particularly bad, mind you, and, it wasn't, I don't mean like just the song choices, but, obviously the Big Iron and Uranium Fever sequences were very awesome, and I loved them. But, like, in terms of the score, right? I think it was much better this season. You had like the Star Spangled Banner, like kind of a mix of that play with Maximus and Harkness, smashing up a Securitron. That was fun. And they used the main theme in a bunch of great times. I thought that was good. And they also have this kind of like mysterious sound when we're like looking at like Vault-Tec mysteries. I think that's really good too. So I thought the music was a lot better this season. And the introduction of the Death Claws was great. I mean, first we had that scene with the demon in the snow. That was just terrifying and very well done. And then we see one in New Vegas, and the first one, it shows up and kind of like puts his claw through the door. It reminded me of Jurassic Park. And I just love the way the characters reacted to it. Like, they're just staring and like terrified. I do think the Deathclaws were a bit slow. If these were actual, New Vegas Deathclaws, then everyone would be dead because they would be sprinting at you and killing you in 5 seconds. The Vault storyline this season was a bit weak, I feel. I already mentioned Norm's part, and I still think his character is great. But with everything he survived, he's clearly a high intelligence, high luck character. But back in Vault 33, the writers are making a joke about redheads being inbred, and that pisses me off. Look, a bit of a tangent here. It's a common stereotype that, oh, redheads are, products of inbreeding. That's not true, but it's a common stereotype. But still, they specifically chose, alright, to have these two characters with red hair simply to make a joke about, haha, look, they wanna make out. They showed up at the product of inbreeding support group. They think it's in support of inbreeding, because they're redheads. And they want to inbreed, because that's what redheads do. Look, I am a redhead myself, okay? I'm a ginger, right? Whatever. But they didn't even give these characters names. It's just redhead guy, redhead woman. Like, they don't even have names on the wiki, all right? And the most notable redheaded characters in the entire show, right? They don't even get names, and they exist for the sole purpose of an incest joke. This makes me more upset than anything else in the show. I'm actually genuinely pissed off about this. This is so annoying. But whatever, I did think the side plot with this whole club was fun. Otherwise, we got the Uranium Fever sequence. That was fun. I'm curious if Reg is going to try and become the Overseer and take Betty's place. That could be interesting. But over in 32, Chet uncovers the shocking revelation that Steph is evil. Oh, actually, sorry. He uncovers the shocking revelation that Steph is Canadian. I actually think this makes her character way more interesting. She was already interesting before, but her backstory just adds so much depth to her character. I wonder how she'll react to the Enclave, maybe she'll try and destroy it from the inside. It's a good thing she's on the other side of the country, though, and doesn't have to worry about Nate the Rake finding her. I like that we got more of the Ghoul and Lucy this season, and I especially enjoyed the bit where she gets addicted to chems. That was funny. But looks like now they'll be splitting up again, and it looks like she'll be spending more time with Maximus. I do hope we get to see the 3 main leads of this show, actually work together at some point and team up, but I don't know, I guess this is Fallout 4, you can only have one companion at a time. But to sum all this up, I really enjoyed the season, and I think this show is something the franchise has really needed, especially because, Bethesda has been very inconsistent with delivering on Fallout. Hopefully we actually hear something concrete about a Fallout 3 or New Vegas remaster soon. I wasn't holding out hope, so sorry if you were. I know a bunch of people were looking forward to that countdown and are kind of, freaking out now, but hey, I didn't expect anything and I'm fine. Okay, that was a lot of rambling, but if you did watch to the end, then thank you. I really do appreciate it. I enjoy this show and I just want to talk about it, but, hey, let me know what you think. Even if you think this show ruins the games, I just want to talk about it. I love talking about Fallout. Also, if you somehow made it to the end and you haven't watched this show, please watch it, dude. I mean, they put up the entirety of Season 1 on YouTube for free. You can just go watch it there.
Maybe just one